So you want to go from 0 to ATP. Well, this time out on the Rusty Pilot, we're going to talk about it. I've got a child that's 21. We own a little Grumman, but we're starting to talk about buying another airplane and what would best suit our mission going forward. Now, currently, we've got a little Grumman, but it doesn't really suit our mission. If we're going to pay our own money and grind from 1,500 hours to 0 to 1,500 hours for ATP, we're going to need something that we can do IFRN, preferably with glass, with an autopilot, a plane that can go into Class Bravo airspace. Little Grumman suited our mission early on of just flying for cheap, because it does fly for cheap. But as we got a little bit further on into this, the lack of a radio, ASDB out, and needing to install, the cost of it was just too much. We'd have to stick another $10,000 in the little plane. Finally, we were like, we should sell this plane and buy a plane with a full set of glass already set up in it and a low time engine to cover our mission, which is to go from 0 to ATP. One of the big reasons you're going to need glass is anything you're hired to fly is going to have it in there. We had already spent time with the six-pack plane and the little Grumman, but you need to be able to get used to programming a modern Garmin system, and it's quite overwhelming for the six-pack pilot to get into the fully glass plane, and you just need to get that out of the way. It's dang near impossible to go backwards, though, from what I've seen. But let's talk about how we locate a plane that'll fit our mission for our budget of $150,000 to $200,000. Before you ever get to the pre-buy, you've got to find something online to go look at. And there's about 4 different websites for that, and you need to have some criteria in your mission statement, which for us is single engine, piston, land, airplane. Rather have fixed gear than retract. What you're going to find is there's better bargains in the retracts than there are in the fixed gear, but you've got more cost, more maintenance, more insurance as you go. And we'll go find a couple of planes and we'll look around for the history. I won't dig through logs or anything in this video. The 4 websites kind of break down into the person that's probably going to finance an aircraft and spend 500 to $1 million, and the person that isn't going to try to swing it with cash or maybe some AOPA money. Controller.com's been around since I was flying. No telling when it started, probably in the 70s. But if you're looking for $200,000 or less airplanes, this is not the site for you. AOS.com is the same way. Barnstormers is a place where you can find a lot of cheap aircraft, but really probably not a lot of $150,000 to $250,000 aircraft. The interface is horrible, and it is like stepping back into the early 1990s style internet. So trader planes where I spend most of my time. I find that I can find a lot of planes on there from 70,000 to maybe 250,000 that fit the mission, and the interface is really usable. So let's take a quick look at it. So when you hit the Trader Plane website, you come directly into search, go to advanced search, pick single engine, and then you can search for keywords. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm looking for 4-place airplanes. I'm going to take any. I find that picking IFR and VFR doesn't work out for me, and then I put in 150 to 200,000. Right off the get-go here, I see a 172 RG. That's a retract, but I know from looking over the last couple of months that that airplane started out at way over 200, probably in the 210 range, and then it's got all the glass, and it's got an autopilot. It's got a past mid-time engine in it that we'll look at in just a second, but that setup's good, and you could conceivably go and do what we're wanting to do at that price point, and I think you would have a pretty easy time selling this airplane with that stack of instruments in it. But it's got a past mid-time engine, and it would have a run out engine by the time we got ready to sell, which is not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something with a lower time engine that I can put 1,000 hours on, and we would be able to sell it without having to go through the engine process that we're in right now in that V-tail I've got that we're 9 months into it. But that's a great stack of avionics. Somebody has spent a small fortune. That's probably $100,000 stack of avionics or more in the airplane, plus it's installed. If you went and decided to install that in a cheaper airplane, you'd be down for 3 or 4 months waiting for it to happen. A 172 RG, we're going to go look at the specs here. It flies about as fast as a 182. However, it's going to drink light, like maybe 6 to 9 gallons an hour for those same speeds. Now, my child's got 150 hours. He's probably ready to take on a complex airplane. I'd rather do this with a fixed gear just for the resale value, but if you are going to be ATP, you probably need to be looking at a complex airplane. We own a complex airplane and a V-tail that he'll be able to get enough time in to overcome that. So fixed gear really works better for us. Um, if you look, how far away is it? They'll show you that. That's as simple as jumping in Google Maps and asking it, which in this case, this place is right outside of San Antonio, so it's drivable or flyable in my little airplane. Then the other thing you want to do is you want to pick up the N number. And FlightAware would be your first stop. And what I'm looking for in FlightAware is this thing flying. And this thing has flown, it flew 4 weeks ago, but the main thing is that it's active because you really don't want to buy something that's been sitting for 2 years because you're probably going to buy somebody's problems. Checking out the yellow line there, that's airspeed. That does confirm it's about as fast as a 182 with fixed gear or a Beechcraft Sierra speeds, but it's going to burn a lot less gas than both those airplanes. Now, you can find who the airplane is registered to in here. You can go back and research that LLC or that person's name just to see if there's any lawsuits against them or stuff like that. Just a high level search on the internet will tell you a lot about the person you're dealing with. And then stick that N number in to make sure that there's not been any accidents. And when you stick the N number in, start asking for accidents, you're going to find some FAA stuff that'll come up. And then a lot of times you'll find pictures of going off the runway or the airplane actually being damaged. I don't really see any of that right here, even though you do see references to it. This is the logs for that particular airplane, the engine. I'm not going to get into reading them here. Typically, when I find something I really want to look at, I've got a guy that's a buyer's agent that I start letting him look at the logs. He costs 2% of the airplane purchase, so in this case, $4,000. You want that. You want that somebody that's been there and done that and bringing through this process and making sure you're not going to get bit because you are buying 50-year-old airplanes. So let's go find a fixed gear. Here's let's see here. We're going to look for a 172. And we're going to look for one with a lot of glass in it, obviously. And there you go. 100 and 80,000. Let's keep looking here. There's got to be a fixed gear 172 in here. There it is. $200,000 172. This thing should have a whole NASA TV studio in it. Now, what this does have is it's got a 25-hour engine, which is exactly what we're looking for. Because we need about 1,300 more hours to reach ATP. You could do your commercial in that thing, um, or your instrument training. A lot of your commercial. You could jump in the VTEL for the rest of the complex. But if I was just buying one airplane, I'd probably go ahead and buy a complex. But we're not in that boat. This plane would be an easy resale because it's got to have modern avionics in it. It will be an even easier resale. The reason this plane hadn't sold yet is he's hiring a cat's back. You know, he's got probably about 70. Nah, that's probably more like 60,000 because he doesn't have an autopilot in it. The autopilot would be about 30 grand. That avionic stack he's got right there, maybe he's got 50 in, and then the zero time engine's probably worth about 40, 45, fully installed 50. So there's $100,000 there. And let's see, this is a 1967. If it was just still at a six pack gauges in there, it wouldn't be worth but about maybe 70,000. So he's probably $20,000 or $30,000 high, but that's not so high you can't start looking with him and talking to him to figure it out. Get it to pre-buy. If there'll be squawks, you can come down from there. We'll end the video with a little fun pic of me and Joshua out flying around. We had flown over to Nashville, and in the background there is Kid Rock's jet. Just one of those fun little aviation memories you'll have with your child, and maybe they'll take you to one day when they start flying and you can't get a medical anymore.